Captain Balls. Yeah, that was gonna be perfect.
Oh my gosh, that one's gonna be great. My thing was kind of like freezing up on the video. I don't know if that's gonna come through on our stream. So this time, people, we are actually streaming, I believe, if I've done it right, on YouTube. So we're streaming on YouTube. I didn't get it over to Twitter Spaces. I didn't even honestly try, but we are on YouTube streaming right now. So
yeah, taking baby steps. 300 or not 300, 180 episodes in. Start moving forward.
You've got it. So hopefully, if you're all there and you're ever like, man, I really wish we could see them live or make comments live while they're doing it. I think there's like a chat and stuff for us to see. So, it's like a thing. I think we did this one time before, a long, long time ago. Oh man, look at that. Giuseppe is playing Civ. So that's something. Like if I could shut off my notifications, that might be good.
Yeah, that might be handy. So, yeah, did we do this or was it that we did a live stream on Twitter? I thought we did a live stream on Twitter. That's when we got people said it was like a scam thing.
I remember doing one on here. I remember doing one on Twitter, and I remember doing one on Discord. Remember the one where we had like a ton of people and they were putting like inappropriate images and I was like booting them?
Yeah, I thought that was the Twitter one. That was this one.
I thought it was this one.
It was hilarious.
I don't remember. But either way, people, we are back. Really, and last week we did an episode that we thought was going to be about aliens. And then we kept with aliens, kinda, but it started getting into religion because we started talking about, what was his name?
Bashar.
Was there a delay because you didn't hear the question or because you had to think about it?
I answered as soon as I heard you come through, so we have a slight delay, apparently.
Oh man, people, sorry. Maybe the streaming is giving us a delay. Speaking of delay, I went down to Charlotte and I got to see Kilted in person, and I meant to do a few shorts, and we were so busy having fun, I never did any shorts. So.
It was awesome. It was super awesome to see you, and another friend of ours came in who you hadn't seen in a while.
Yeah.
So it was an awesome time.
Like I've seen him on Zooms and meets like this, but literally haven't seen him for 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
One of the funny things I am finding about this new society, and I remember having this discussion about 3 years ago, and I think we talked about it even on a podcast once, is like I have some friends who I've literally never seen in person. And I remember somebody once being like, yeah, but are they really friends if you've never seen them in person? Like, does it really count? And I'm like, yeah, I think it counts. Like, I've never seen Jason.
Yeah.
But I'm like, Jason, come stay at our house. Come visit us. Come hang out. And he is totally 100% the other way. Like, to the point where he's like, yeah, come visit my grandparents. Right?
Yeah. Exactly.
So I think, making those connections face-to-face is not a requirement anymore. I think it's a requirement for some people. But I think these connections are still super, super powerful, whether you see somebody face to face or not. Right?
Yeah, I agree for sure. But it is nice. It's that it adds a little bit extra when you do see people face to face, and you get to hang out and eat yummy food.
It does. Like, it was nice seeing him. And the big thing is, here's one of the big things I think, and this like could be totally fake for people, right? But like, when like Jesse and I are chatting in a Zoom or we're on a phone call or whatever it is, email, Facebook, whatever, you get the feeling that there's caring, right?
Yes.
There is no substitution for the in-person hug and somebody looking into your eyes and telling you they love you. There's no things in my world, things don't compare to that moment, right?
Yeah.
Like that's where you get that full feeling of it, and you're like, oh my gosh, that's a real connection, right? Like then, so that's what you get in person, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which,
but you can have great friends for sure.
You can have great friends. I'm just saying there's another level when you're in person. Not necessarily like better, but there's a different level, right? Like the first time I see Jason, it's gonna like be a crazy moment that's gonna be moving, right? But it's not like the friendship is still the friendship. I'm just saying that you get a whole bunch of different feels when you're in person.
Well, that was like last summer when I got to meet all the D&D guys. Well, I guess I had met Joe and Nate before, but everyone else, it was awesome.
Yeah.
Actually, I guess I only met
Douglas.
Yeah, because I had met Dave before too. Yeah, just meeting Douglas and Wade. But still, it was like...
Yes, but it made a difference, right?
It was awesome.
And like for me, I had not really seen Wade in person except for like that first time. And it was way different when I saw Wade, right? Like that was a different experience. It was a way different experience when I saw Doug in person. We're still the same friends. Like it didn't change the friendship. I'm just saying there's a different feel involved, and you trust that feeling more. Like right now you're like, is Jared really looking at me, or is he looking at a camera? Does he really feel that way? Does he not? When you're in person, you as a human feel like you can tell that about the other people.
Yeah.
Whether that's right or not. They could be totally playing you and fooling you or whatnot. I don't know.
Exactly.
Yeah. And hopefully people, this is working.
Yeah, I really appreciate it.
I'm hoping our stream
is hopefully there's not too much of a delay.
Because you can definitely tell there's a delay when we talk over each other, right? Because we hear each other talking, so. It's a thing. So, going back to last week, you and I talked about something this weekend when we were together, and it tied into what you were saying last time when we were talking about like all of the souls and that people like are reliving their experience. And what I expressed to Kilted is I, in general, feel like I'm pretty religious, right? And all of the stuff that entails. And a lot of people like don't realize that about me, or they realize it and they're like, that's kind of a weird thing for you, but it is what it is. So,
yeah.
But one of the things that I've always thought, and I think it rectifies a lot of issues with people's faith, is I've always thought like your soul comes from God. And if you're like, yeah, I'm not a God person, we have a few of those listeners, think of like a supreme being, think of an energy source, whatever you want to think of it as. Like I've always had the feel like we came from that, and that eventually we will go back to that. So like in my religion, like we came from God and eventually we will go back to God. And like when you read the Bible and stuff, it'll say things like, yeah, you know what, you want to go back and you want to go to heaven and you want to be with God and you want to be with Jesus and you want to be this. And if you ask, what does that mean? And it'll say, oh, you become complete with them. You become together with them. You become, and I'm like, in my brain, I'm always like, okay, so we're like joining with the higher consciousness. And I'm like, I kind of like that idea. A book, and I'm not going to remember the title of the book because it was like the third or sixth in a series of books, right? And I read the book thinking it was like a fantasy book. And I was telling somebody about the book once. And in retrospect, now I think maybe it was a smut book. Though I remember somebody giving it a different name. They're like, oh, that's this kind of a book. And I can't remember what they said. But I was like, oh, okay, like what does that mean? And they're like, it's like a girl's smut book or something. I was like, oh, I really enjoyed that book.
You don't remember what it is, or you don't want to say?
No. The book was... Okay, maybe I do not remember it. No. The reason, what I was saying is I don't remember the book.
Okay.
Of which book in the series. So, like, you know how, like, I always say, like, oh yeah, I read The Wheel of Time. but I might not remember what
Yes.
book 12 was or book 13.
Yes.
So this is that kind of thing where it was one of those. But in the book, you realize at one point that this godlike figure, it actually sends out multiple, like lots and lots and lots and lots of entities. And this is so similar to what you were talking about last week, which is why I was like last week, oh my gosh, I've got this thing to say and I'm not going to be able to say it. And in the book, this figure had like people on Earth and they were him. And they kind of knew they were him. They kind of didn't know they were him. And they were just like living their life. But he could like kind of like move into him. Like the upper consciousness knew they were them. Right?
Yeah.
But they might not have realized it, or maybe they did. But they were living their own things and their own stuff. And he was like, oh yeah. He goes, and his thing was a human body and a human mind can't possess my God mind. So I have to send out lots and lots and lots of them, and I only give them a sliver of me because that's all a human can handle is a sliver of me. So that human construct, that human body and brain, they can handle a sliver. So that sliver is me, but that sliver is also that sliver, right, on its own. And eventually they're going to be back with me. Like, you know, eventually I'll take them back in, or maybe I'll leave them there, but, you know, I can't just put my whole consciousness into something. And it was really good. It was, I think the author of the series, and I think the world is in, maybe it's the Outlander world. So I think you've heard of the Outlander books. And I think it was a TV series and a movie.
I haven't read them, but I'm familiar with them.
I have not read them either. I'm only familiar.
Yeah, it started as a book.
So I think it's in that world, and it's by that author.
Okay.
Right, like I think at one part.
Yeah, that's a smart book.
They like meet. Yeah, they meet like these Scottish people or whatever. And I remember Amy reading the book, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, like that's the Outlander people." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And she's like, "That's the show, and like this is the same author, and I didn't realize it." And oh, maybe it was called Dark Fae. Was that the name of the book? Gosh darn it, I cannot remember what the name was. Maybe I'll Google it while we're doing this.
Okay.
So I remember the character names.
But that's fun. I do like that. I like that idea, and it's very similar to what we were talking about.
Yeah, right. It's
and also similar to what you and I were talking about and your beliefs.
Yes, I was like, it's so weird. Like and that's kind of my thought. Is like there's so many of these things that they must be resonating with people.
Yeah.
So I'm like, you know, is it really that far fetched when they're all doing that?
Yeah.
Oh, come on.
Is it just the greater consciousness of all humankind kind of going that way where you're seeing these things and
maybe, which
kind of coming
brings me to my other that. Oh, it wasn't Dark Fae wasn't the book. The original book was called Dark Fever.
Okay.
And it's Karen Marie Moning. Is who the author is.
Okay.
Karen Marie Moning. And the book is called the Fever series, or the series is called the Fever series. And there's 5 books, and then there's a whole nother series after that, like following another character. So.
Okay.
That makes you feel better. Thank you, people. Sorry for going off the rails for a second, but yeah. So that book had that kind of concept. It was like 3 or 4 books in, right? So it's not anything you'd know in the first one.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, totally kind of interconnected with it. All right.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So I'm kind of dominating this episode, but do you want to hear the thing that I've been teasing about for like the last 3 episodes?
Absolutely.
Okay. So this is going to tie a lot of these things maybe in together. And I should pull up, I can't remember which screen my document is, but I should pull up my document on this. So, my daughter and I once had a chat, I don't know, 2-3 years ago, right? And I was like, man, I have kind of a cool book idea. And she's like, I have a cool book idea too. And so we started like jamming on this book idea that we both had. So, you know, the universe speaks to people. And so we were both having the same kind of an idea. And we started fleshing out this book. And while we're fleshing it out, I'm like, this book is a new religion. I'm like, this is a religion that we're creating here. And I don't know if I've told you about this or if we've talked about it on the podcast. But we were like, oh my gosh, this would be a religion. Like if we wrote this book series and we published it, by the third or fourth or fifth book, people would start thinking of us as prophets. And so, like, it was kind of a weird...
That's awesome.
It was kind of a weird feeling, right?
Yeah.
So I spent some time after that because I was like... So the problem was the books are based around a religion, a mythical religion. So as we're doing it, we're basing the books on this mythical religion. And the more we talked about the basis of that religion, you know, kind of like when Tolkien was like, I've got to make my elves and I've got to make their story and make their language. Like as you do that, the thing becomes more and more believable. Yeah. And so we're like doing this and we're like, oh my gosh, this is getting more and more and more and more believable. And so one of the first things I did is I started writing the commandments for this religion. Because
that's awesome. Can I ask 1, 2, or 3 which daughter?
Ava, yeah, the second, middle daughter.
Okay. I wasn't sure if you wanted to say that. That's why I asked the number.
No, I don't mind at all. Okay, so the name of, I think, the religion, I think what we named it is it's called the Infinite. Okay? And I think the commandments are called like the Infinite Commandments, right? And so I started writing them, and I should probably like spend some time here, like pulling them up and like looking at them so that I could quote them to you guys because you would like crack up like they're really good commandments, right? But let me give you the basis of the religion, and then it'll kind of start making more sense to you and see how it kind of ties in. So here's the deal. This goes along with what we've been talking about, how there's like this infinite number of parallel worlds, right?
Yeah.
And so if there's an infinite number of these parallel worlds, there theoretically should be an infinite number of ballbusters and an infinite number of kiltids.
Yep.
Okay. And so here's the deal. We were going with the assumption, like we've talked about, that there's one soul. Not one like God's soul, but we said each person has one soul. It doesn't matter how many parallel universes there are. It doesn't matter how many infinites of me there is. There's still just one soul. We're all part of that same soul. We are just split an infinite amount of times. So when you die, that soul joins the rest of the collective. And as more...
Do they have a name yet?
Huh?
Do they have a name yet?
Yeah, I mean, they're probably ballbusters.
Like the Oversoul?
No. Well, no. So that's what I'm saying. Like, my soul is split right now. Let's not use infinity, because that'll mess with people's brains.
Okay.
My soul is split across 1 million parallel universes.
Okay.
And...
Oh, so when Ballbuster on Earth 9999 dies in an accident, who turned left and that one turned right at the wrong time, that one goes back into the Ballbuster soul. Okay, and so there are, say, 7 billion souls right now.
Yes.
Okay. When you said go back, I wasn't sure if they went back into a greater collective.
So here's what happens. Here's what happens in this. I mean, the books are totally different, but the books are kind of based on this religion. And so the thing is so let's say your example, right? There was a time when I turned right and I could have turned left, and a whole bunch of my souls turned left, right? Because that's how it works. You got a 50-50 shot, right? So all those souls died. and they all joined us, which makes the rest of us all better connected to our soul. Which means I'm now wiser. I'm now more connected. I'm now seeing the bigger picture better, right? And things are making more sense to me. And then we have another situation where we choose one way instead of the other way, and a whole bunch of more of my souls die. So a whole bunch more souls come into me. And now I'm even wiser and I'm smarter, maybe, and feeling better about things and more connected to everything around me. And this continues, right? Throughout the infinite universes, every time that happens, they're more connected. And so when you think about this, and you start from like birth, like at birth, there's an infinite number of you.
Yeah.
But a whole bunch of you had the cord around your neck. And you died at childbirth. And a whole bunch of you got dropped by the nurse and died. And each time that happens, the rest of you are becoming wiser and wiser, which is why as you grow older, your brain is developing more. You're becoming wiser and wiser as you go, because more of them are combining to get to you, right? Which is why by the time you are super, super old, in your 80s, in your 90s, you're now way better connected to everything. And you're way, way wiser about everything, because not only do you have your life experiences, but your souls are doing that. And maybe people who we think of as incredibly wise, right? Who we're like, oh my gosh, they're so wise. And they made it through some traumatic event in their life, which has now made them so wise. It's because all of the rest of them didn't make it through that traumatic event.
Can I be a beta reader?
Yeah, for sure.
Nice.
Right, but isn't this a fun thought process? Awesome. Yeah.
That's super awesome.
So the books, by the way, follow people and goes through what's happened.
Makes sense.
But it could be like a normal person, like it could be following Kilted's life, but following it through like this, and you made the left turn and died. And so then it jumps to Kilted, who made the right turn. And how all of a sudden they're like, right? Or like a whole bunch of them might be feeling anxiety because they're feeling all of their counterparts going through some traumatic event.
Yeah.
So they're super anxious or they're super upset, because the rest of their souls are going through that event and they're picking that up. So while they're sitting there going, oh, I don't know. And like the gut feeling, like they're all experiencing that. And so they're like, oh my gosh, I have a feeling that something bad's going to happen, because something bad is going to happen. Right? And you pick that up.
Yeah.
And so then if all of your souls are communicating with each other about, hey, I need to find a truck, if they're all starting to push that way, that creates a super powerful ripple, and you find a truck.
Yeah.
So it ties into a lot of the Kilted Balls belief systems, which would make sense.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
So, yeah, and following somebody like Mother Teresa, like following that soul, would be a really interesting read, I think.
It'd be super awesome. And one thing you guys will have to discuss is how to think about time, because one of the interesting things that Bashar talks about is that there's only now. Like, even when you think about a past life, it's happening right now. But it was on Earth millions and millions of years ago, or it was in what you would think of as future. But it's all now. It's all we have. It's right now. It's all happening.
Time is not a linear event.
Yeah.
We see time as linear.
It's interesting.
Because that's how we work, right?
Yeah.
But that also means, like, let's say some weird cataclysm happened. And it killed all of your infinite selves but one. So you have finally become a complete soul. You would be transcendent. And people would start to think of you as God.
So you'd get the things on your hands?
You'd be past that. You'd be past that. So that's what I'm
That's
saying.
just a reference. What Ball and I were talking about this weekend.
Yes,
That was
yes.
an inside little joke.
It was definitely but no, what I'm saying is maybe that's...
No, I see what you're saying.
What
That's
God
awesome.
is. God is the one that all of the souls came together. Again, like in the infinite, with time not being a thing, that was when all of the souls meshed for that entity, and then they became God. And he was wise enough to be like, you know what, I'm going to create this species down here, or I'm going to create evolution, or I'm going to do whatever the heck I want to do, because that's how like elevated I am and connected to everything.
Yeah.
Right? So it just takes...
to have all the remembrance.
Yes, yes. Like, it takes it to a whole different level, right? Whole different level. So, yeah, that was the thing I've been kind of waiting to share, because I'm like, this kind of ties in with a lot of these interesting ideas. But you can also see that if we wrote it well and we wrote it correctly, how some people would believe that right away.
Yep. Yeah. And just buy into it.
Right.
Well, that's what you've talked about before. A lot of religions come from that. Just like a belief system. I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean religion, but a belief system for sure. And I could see, you need something to do with the. I wouldn't even say second half of your life, because you're not even middle aged yet. But I could see you being a prophet.
Right, I'm a prophet. Well, and it brings into things like you want to be good. You want to be good to people, not just to be good to people. But one of the things is that's helping all of your souls be good. Right?
Yes.
Like you're helping raise all of your consciousnesses by you making good decisions. Like that's like it's more than just you. Which is, I think, a powerful thing. Right? And that maybe some of your souls are making bad decisions and you can be the one that does it better. Or like maybe one of my jobs is to make Kilted a better soul. Right? Like and to help you on your journey so all of your souls grow. Right? But so like that's in like all of the commandments. Like this is why you do the thing.
Yeah.
This is why you do the thing. Written similar in style to the original 10 commandments, but with a ballbuster flair. So
there you go. I can't wait to hear those someday.
Yeah, I don't even know how many I've got, because you know how many there are.
You got a busy summer coming up.
I do. Do you know how many there are?
How many? 33.
No, they're infinite. It's the infinite commandments.
55. That's a lot of writing.
So much writing. They can't ever be done. They're the infinite commandments.
That's a lot of rules.
So many. Like if you're going to do it right. Right? Seems like you have a lot of your rules in your religion. We have the most rules. Your Bible can't hold our rules.
That's awesome.
Yup. So yeah. Anyway, that was a fun little start, and then it kind of tied in with all of our things. So I was like, I'm gonna have to share
that's
that.
a great time.
Right? Isn't that a good time? So yeah.
Yep.
Sure.
I've been wondering, but definitely trying not to bug you about it. So
I know I've been holding
the best
tight
things
to my
do come to
vest.
those who wait.
Which is not my project, by the way. So if you're one of the listeners who heard me say I had a project that I'm working on, totally not related. Like that's a different. The thing about being me, and a lot of you know this, is I always have like 1,000 projects.
Oh, I thought that was your project.
No, totally different thing.
Do I know your project?
No. Maybe.
Oh, okay.
I doubt it.
I don't think so. I thought that was your project. Okay, I thought you were working on it.
Someone asked me earlier, they're like, hey, can you tell me what you're working on? Like, am I one of the listeners? And I'm like, no, you can't know. I'm like, but yes, you're one of the, like, anybody who's like one of our originals is going to get a book. Or whatever it is. It's not a book, but.
Oh, that project. Okay, I forgot. Yes, I don't know about that project.
No, that one. But this is another project.
Uh-oh.
But by the way, I would do that with our book, which I'm sure you've been writing in. So.
I do need to. I'm almost to that stage. You know that I do have to clean up some clutter. I've been working on that.
I was just going to say it's hard to write in clutter, because that's like I have to write like in a different spot than this. It's hard when my desk is cluttered to write. So
yes, but I do enjoy it. I enjoyed the writing that I've done, and I enjoy that aspect, and like to think that I have that creativeness inside of me.
I heard that there's a new AI that is, so you know how you can dictate stuff to, like, I don't know, Google Docs or Word, or like I use Otter
Yep.
sometime, and it'll like dictate what you have. I
Hmm.
hear there's an AI that you can dictate to that writes down what you mean, not what you're saying.